Don't worry about me, I'ma be alright. Got G-O-D all over my life. Don't worry where I've been, what I did, how I came up.
Hey, starting from scratch family, it's Casey, your girl. Listen, I want to talk to you guys about my life as an entrepreneur. Simply just want to share with you all the details that I think that are necessary for upcoming people that desire to walk in entrepreneurship. Sorry for the interruption, but I had to make sure that you did not leave my channel without liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel. But most importantly, I want to talk to you about an offer I think is going to be beneficial to you, especially if you are a content creator. You're up and coming, you're mid-season, you're advanced, I don't know, whatever you are. If you are having trouble with growing your channel, elevating your channel, taking your channel to a whole new level, you're stuck in a rut, you don't know what to do, you don't know where to begin, I'm going to recommend my coach, Coach Van from LFR. I'm going to put his link in the description for you to go over there and press on the link. Get the information, sign up for the course. Not only sign up for the course, but join us through the week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We serious about this, y'all. We serious about elevating our game, and we're going to elevate our game with our coach. Listen, I need y'all to go ahead and join right now. Hey y'all, I'm back and it's story time. But before I get into that, I am going to let you know that I have notes on the side of my table. So if I happen to be looking down from time to time, it is because I have notes. And I tried to have these notes because I didn't want to segue all over the place. Because I'll get into this story time. I'll tell another story within the story and y'all be like, girl, what was the point? But anyway. Also, guys, I want to show you these glasses I have on. These are my blue light glasses, guys. It protects my eyes from the glare that comes from the light, and also just protects my eyes from the lighting. If you do not have a pair of blue light glasses, you should definitely get a pair. I will be drinking water, drinking tea, or whatever doing this whole thing. So, because it's kind of a juicy but long story, I think. Well, you be the judge. Now, I want to say that entrepreneurship for me was not known to me until maybe when I got in my late 30s. And I really didn't know I had an entrepreneurial spirit. I just know that I've had a free spirit for a long time. I didn't want to be feeling confined. And to me, a job was always confining to me. It restricted me. I had to operate within these rules. And, a lot of people's like, oh, you're just rebellious. But it was more than that. It wasn't about being rebellious. It was about being able to be free. Being able to be free. To be able to operate on my own schedule. I had never had that before. And so for me, work was always this confinement that I felt like I had to get out of. And I absolutely hated working, although I understood that I had to work. I grew up with baby boomers, y'all. You need to work. You need to have that good job. You need to go to that good job and keep that good job and don't be late to the job. And they, and it worked for them, right? But it didn't work for me, and it still doesn't work for me even now. So my journey to entrepreneurship came as a result of me having to work and feeling oppressed in some type of way. And I didn't really know, again, as I stated before, I was an entrepreneur, I think, until I was in my late 30s. All I knew is that I had to go to a job that I didn't particularly care for. Now, I was good at my job. I was very good at it. I've always had a problem with time, y'all. Time is, listen, getting up, getting to work on time, whether it was traffic, it was always something. But I've always had favor on the job where, we were able to have 7 minutes grace period and stuff like that. And, but still, I wrestle with having to get up in the morning and go to a job. And I really was not a morning person. And I'm not going to say I'm a morning person now, but I'm better. I think you get older, you appreciate waking up in the morning. And so there's that. Needless to say, I was at my job one day and I just had it. Too much going on. I don't want to be here anymore. And so one day I ran into this video cassette tape. Yep. They had cassette tapes. And I remember listening to TD Jakes at the time. He was talking about working in a hostile work environment because I felt like I was in a hostile work environment. And guys, let me tell you, it wasn't just them. I was making it hostile too. Okay. I had a smart mouth. I was young. I was impetuous. You couldn't tell me nothing. I'm just very prideful. I just got tired of people bossing me around. But then, as you age, you mellow out and you kind of think about things. And so as I was listening to him talk, he said there are different streams of wealth. And he was also talking about why the work environment was hostile and the different things and all of that. And then there was one thing in there that he said was this. He said, your job is not what you're called to. Your job is just basically in between and in the meantime to where you're supposed to be. Then he went on to say that your job is not your source. God is your source. And as I was listening to these tapes while at work, because I was working, I was a quick worker, and I listened to that. We all had headphones, y'all. It wasn't, it was not something that you would get in trouble for if you had it. And so as I was leaning into everything that he was talking about, and I began to pray about it and everything, and like I said, I had already been making jewelry. I started making jewelry in 2002. And basically my story is that I began to pray because I didn't know I had a craft, right? And I was thinking to myself, my gosh, I'm not crafty. I'm not crafty at all. I'm coveting my god sister and one of my friends because they're very, very great at making these little craft items. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, why can't I do this? But mind you guys, I have the ability to sing, and I taught and other things that God has given me that I can do. And I'm still coveting, right? Make it make sense. But what I learned in the midst of that was I lied to myself. Or I'm not going to say I lied to myself, but I forgot. I forgot that I actually did have some crafting ability in my body. I used to go to camp, y'all. I would make keychains. I would make pottery things. I was crafty, but I forgot. Well, before I was reminded that I forgot, I literally went to the Lord and I said, I don't have any craftiness about me. And I don't know why everybody else is able to do stuff and I can't. Again, coveting. Never covet another person's gifting. Go to the Lord for your own stuff. Now, let's go ahead and speed up. So basically, I taught a vacation Bible school for the kids. They were 10 to 13 years of age. We had to come up with not only a curriculum, but we had to come up with the activities. I thought it was a bright idea to go to the craft store to figure out what it is that I was going to have them to be doing. I went down the painting aisle and I said, that's too messy. So I felt the Holy Spirit leading me down the bead aisle. So I wind up going down this bead aisle and I saw these beautiful beads, these big old container beads, because at that time they had like lots of beads in this big old container. And that was when they were selling them in the container. And so I wind up also purchasing some stretch magic, so that they can make some bracelets and stuff like that. All right, after doing that, I took it to church. It was a week-long Bible study, so I figured that after each lesson, we were going to sit there and do some arts and craft because, these are 10 to 13-year olds and their attention span is not more than 15 minutes. You better get whatever it is that you're going to get in 15 minutes. Okay, well, to my surprise, they were more into the Bible lesson that year and they didn't really care about doing arts and craft, and they maybe made 1 or 2 bracelets. Well, I'm thinking, okay, every day, okay, we're going to get these bracelets done. By the time Friday come, there were no bracelets made but the ones that were made on Monday, which was the initial 2 or 3 bracelets that were, made. So I wind up taking all of these beads home and I'm thinking, what am I going to do with all these beads? I got all these beads. I just wasted my money and I'm stuck with these beads. So it wasn't I don't think initially at first I winded up doing anything with these beads. I think I might have had them for a minute. Well, needless to say, the prayer came back to my mind. And one day I was led to sit on my living room floor with these beads. I said, I got to do something with these beads, And I started making bracelets, y'all. That's how I started. Now, again, I'm thinking I don't have craftiness in my body, but somehow I knew how to tie those knots. And I hadn't even watched YouTube yet. And so basically, the Holy Spirit was calling back to my remembrance of how to do these things. Because again, guys, I went to camp. But again, I forgot. All right, so then I started making earrings. I went from making bracelets to necklaces and then earrings. And then I broke into the fairs, meaning that I got started selling my items at these fairs. And I don't remember the first fair. No, I do remember the first fair. I'll take that back. The first fair was in Berkeley at that time, and I don't remember the name of it, but they had this big Berkeley fair. It was at this museum or something. It was at library. And we were outside the steps and everybody was coming around and all that stuff. And so, guys, I remember selling my jewelry out there. I didn't know what the heck I was doing, y'all. Just out there. I think I had a tablecloth, but I didn't know how to organize nothing. And so one of my other god sisters, she's an organizer. And so she came out there and started organizing my stuff and all of that, making it look neater. And I made some money. I did make my money back. I paid $75. That was nothing back then. I wish I could, y'all, pay $75 because, that's rare. Needless to say, I started making more jewelry and I started going to more fairs. I started learning more about them. I would go online. And then finally I became a Oakland artisan and started selling at Jack Lundy Square and every other, place. Basically would sell with my co-workers. They would buy my jewelry at work. And that's how I got started. Now, I didn't start the business officially until 2007, y'all. But I was always doing business. And I remember praying and asking the Lord again after I was listening to the T.D. Jakes and what he was saying about the work environment and all that. And I remember asking, was this supposed to be a hobby or a business? And the answer came as a business. And so I established a business in I keep saying 20, but it's 2007, y'all. Okay, it's 2025, whatever. So I started then, and I started out as a sole proprietor, just, making, because I didn't know what I was doing. Guys, I didn't have anybody to teach me anything. We only had one entrepreneur in my family, and she didn't teach me anything. I would go to her shop from time to time. I just knew she ran a shop. She had a bunch of old clothes, like for older people, and the clothes were outdated. And I was wondering how she even manage. I guess she had a clientele that she depended on. They would come in and buy clothes or whatever. She was in the Fillmore district and she was there for a very long time. But I didn't really understand what entrepreneurship took, what it looked like, or any of that. Because I didn't see it before and I didn't see it behind the scenes. I just saw what was an appearance of it. And I was like, well, I don't know nothing about that. But as I know now, that was hard work. She was, here's the thing. She couldn't afford to buy any more products. She had to sell what she had. And so that's one of the things about entrepreneurship, the downsizing of entrepreneurship, the downside I should say, is that you can have a product and you might want to do other products, but you can't do other products until you sell the products in which you already have. And sometimes the products that you have are not relevant for the trends or the times. And so you have to figure it out until you can do better. And one of the things I realized that my aunt was dealing with, she just did not have enough people to sew into her business. She didn't have enough people to, help her with it. Running the business by yourself, y'all, it ain't for the weak. And a lot of us don't have the editors and the personal assistants and the photography person and all of that. Now, when I do photo shoots, guys, that's because I have something extra to put into the business at that time where I can hire a photographer. Otherwise, I am my own photographer. And my photographer at the time, he taught me how to take pictures. And I had to learn how to do all these things, be my own personal assistant, be my own graphics designer, my own website designer, making all of my stuff. Entrepreneurship, guys, is not for the weak. And so I really didn't understand what entrepreneurship looked like. I didn't understand what it took, none of it. So, of course, how would I know that I needed to be an entrepreneur? But it goes back to me having a free spirit. And that is, I didn't want to work for anybody. I knew I had to work, but I didn't want to work for anybody. And as I got older, it started progressing more and more and more. And I would start saying, this job is just getting in the way of my life. My job is getting in the way of my life. Think about that for a second. Doesn't your life get funded through your job? Well, so I thought it did. But in my mind, it still was getting in the way of my life. It was getting in the way of what I wanted to do. And at that time, guys, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I know I didn't want to do what I was doing. And so this has been some time since I've started this entrepreneurial job, because all of my entrepreneurial life, I've had a job. And even when I didn't have a job and I was on unemployment at that time, I didn't get to stay on unemployment long enough. Neither did I get to invest in the business or do anything because I had to find another job. So again, I was constantly doing the business and the job at the same time. And I struggled for a while. I struggled, y'all. I struggled. I can't even tell you how I struggled. And it is not until now that I have been able to maybe take a couple months off and then put some time and effort into the business. How is that going now? Well, guys, honestly, I may have to find some type of remote job, part-time job, because I still got bills to pay. And as much as I do sell on the different platforms that I'm on, it's still not enough. And that is also a a downward thing that you have to think about when you're an entrepreneur. You have to think about that. Um, it's not always bells and whistles. It's great because you get to work for yourself. You set your own hours. You work late nights. You get up early in the morning or whenever you get up, and you work. And you're working and you're promoting your items, but still you might not sell anything, right? There's that. And then there are days where you sell everything. And I think a lot of times, many times, entrepreneurs are not really telling that part of it. Now, I do know some out there, they'll tell you the whole naked, raw truth about entrepreneurship, but mostly they're not telling you that there are days you're not going to sell anything. There are days you want to quit. There are days you feel like you can't do this no more. There are days you want to just throw everything against the wall. That's entrepreneurship. And partly the reason why I think I haven't gotten as far as I want to be is because I was pouring into other individuals. So that cut into me pouring into myself. That's another part of it all. When you're doing everything on your own, it's hard, right? And you somehow expect, because you have poured into other people, that they're going to come back and pour into you. This is the real truth, y'all. My friends and my family did not support my business when I first started. They refused to buy anything. It was not until they started seeing strangers wear my things, or they started seeing me wear my things and I look cute in it or whatever, then that's when they wanted to buy. Now, the only person that really bought my stuff was my mama. My mama bought whatever. My mother would take my jewelry and sell it to people. Baby, my mama was a hustler, okay? No joke. I think she's the greatest hustler that ever lived, okay? And basically, she would be the one. Have you seen my daughter's jewelry? She would be promoting it. And guys, I also did not want to be the face of my own business, y'all, because I don't like being in the front. And I figured out why I didn't like to be in the front, and I'll go into that in another video, y'all. Because then we'll be here for another hour and ain't nobody got time for that. Needless to say, I would start doing more and more festivals. And I remember I started doing the Black Cuisine that's out here in San Francisco. And my mother would be so upset because I would never talk. My cousin would do all the talking, and she was like, you need to let Kesa do the talking because she needs to talk. But I didn't want to talk. I didn't want nobody looking at me. I didn't want to do all that. But eventually I started being the face of my own company. I started doing things because initially my cousin was helping me do certain things. But again, guys, nobody's going to run your business like you. Nobody's going to do the things in your business like you'll do them. And she was making jewelry too. Because I was teaching her. But needless to say, my cousin is not doing it with me now because my cousin developed arthritis, and so she really can't do much right now. So again, essentially I'm doing everything on my own again. But entrepreneurship is the most fascinating, wonderful, glorious, exciting, thrilling ride in life. It's a risk. Remember the saying, starving artists? It's literally like that a little bit. Well, anyway, guys, that is basically the end of my story. I hope I didn't bore you too much, but hopefully that gave you a little bit of more insight about who I am, what I'm doing, and the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, what I've run into, what I think I love most about it, what I hate most about it. I think I cover that pretty well. Other than that, y'all, I am going to bid you all adieu. And leave me some comments in the chat if you want to know anything else. But before I leave, I want to say this to someone that might be considering entrepreneurship. If you want to know you're an entrepreneur, deep down in your heart and your soul, here are some of the signs. You go to work and you daydream about the thing you would rather be doing. You go to work, you're bored. When you go home and do the thing that you love to do, you have the most fulfilling feeling ever. When you're at work, you can't wait to get off work to get to the thing that you rather be doing. Those are some of the signs that you are an entrepreneur. Hopefully that helped you out. Until the next time, I'll see you later.
Don't worry about me, I'ma be alright. Got G-O-D all over my life. Don't worry where I've been, what I did, how I came up. Everything was a sin until they changed. Don't worry about me,